Welcome to Talkin VAWLS, episode number 33, brought to you by the Outright Geekery Podcast Network on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you meet your podcast needs, but also by the S&B Network on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like button, leave us a comment, and subscribe. Seriously, subscribe. This podcast gets about 11 to 1,200 views every week. If everybody that listened subscribed, we would be well on our way. So do us a favor. If you like what we do, if you enjoy our content, hit that subscribe button. If your aunt has a YouTube account, get her to subscribe. If your mom, your sister, your brother, your cousin, get everybody to subscribe. We are on the chase for 1,000 subscribers. When we get there, we are going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card. Go on Twitter, find @SnakeAndBoogie. The tweet is pinned. My name is Boogie Bentley.
Vols JP.
And I'm Armaine.
What an opening that was. Be sure you talk to all your relatives and subscribe on the guys. I need people to subscribe. We're so close. We are so close. We've gained almost 100 plus subscribers since football season. I want to hit that 1,000 mark because then we can monetize videos and we can bring you more podcasts, more Talkin VAWLS. Speaking of, you guys asked, we are going to deliver this week. When the clock hits 0, it's officially, guys, it's Gator Hater week. It is Gator Hater week. This is weird. It's right after the game. The game ended. I walked downstairs, got the laptop out, hooked up the microphone. We're off and recording because we're going to post an episode today on Saturday, and we're going to get back together on Wednesday and bring you a bonus episode of Talkin VAWLS. If you like that, you know how you can make Boogie happy. You can subscribe. But the Vols take care of business, I guess. 24-0 over UTEP. Our main opening comments.
Kind of a weird game to me. A lot of yardage on offense. Defense looked good. Offense had its moments. I will say after last week, I said last week I liked what Chris brought. It's time to do away with the 2 quarterback system. It's done. Garantano's the guy. I'm convinced after today.
Do you think that the way they brought Chris into the game was a little awkward? It was on – I took some notes. This is weird. I got a lot of notes. It was on the 6th drive, and it's, a couple minutes left in the half, and JP's freaking fired up because asking where the 2-minute offense is. It's so awkward at that point in time, and I think Jesse on VolQuest brought it up. You've not had a chance to run a 2-minute offense all season. You know, it's the 3rd game. You've got the perfect opportunity to get some live reps of a 2-minute offense. And instead, that's when you choose to put in Chris, put Garantano on the bench, and you go 3 and out and do absolutely nothing.
I didn't like that at all. Like I said, that's a perfect opportunity to get in that 2-minute offense. And they're just trying to run the clock out, and they were around the 35, 40-yard line. That's plenty of time to go down the field and score points.
It seemed to me like they were trying to just chew the clock.
It did me too, and I don't understand it at all.
I think Chandler ran out of bounds. You know, they ran on 1st and 2nd down, and Chandler went out of bounds, stopped the clock, and it kind of led to the punt. To me, it seems like they wanted to just chew the clock, get out of there, and go in the locker room, which made absolutely no sense. JP, you were pissed. I shut down the text messages, said we couldn't talk. We never record day of the game. I wanted to save it for the podcast. So what's going through your head right there a couple minutes before halftime?
Well, I don't understand why that we call a timeout before UTEP punts, and then when we do get the ball back, the first 2 plays are running plays. I mean, it just didn't make any sense, that whole series. I mean, I understand, the weirdness or the craziness of putting Chris in at that point in time too, but the first 2 play calls, I mean, it just didn't make any sense. I mean, why even call the timeout before UTEP punts to try to save the clock if you're not going to try to push the ball down the field? It didn't make any sense to me.
It didn't make any sense to me either. Like you said, if you're just going to run it out, just let them run the clock down. And again, I'll say it again. Last week, I said I'll be interested to see Chris more. I don't need to see him anymore unless it's a blowout or unless Garantano gets injured. Nothing really bad with him. I just think Garantano, I thought he took another step today. That was a perfect opportunity to put Garantano in to see if he could lead them down the field, because there may be a point in this coming week, may be that game where you need those points.
I agree.
I just don't.
It didn't make any sense.
I don't understand that. It did not. It did not make sense at all. I don't know. I mean,
it's a head scratcher for me.
It is.
And I tell you, another head scratcher for me in the first half was when we had the ball there at the 39-yard line, and we have those 2 penalties on third down, and UTEP declines both of them, and we have that play where it's ended up being 4th down and 6 at the 38 or 39-yard line of UTEP, and we
really
punt.
Bother me. I mean,
I'm like,
at first I thought it was 4th and.
It does me because
it is
I mean
UTEP.
it's UTEP.
It is UTEP.
Those are the games, like Rocky, like Armane's saying.
But why?
These are the games.
What do you have to gain
that you work on
there?
those type of plays?
Okay, you go for it and you make it. Okay, what? Well, you're not letting me talk.
Really,
I do too, because
you're not
number
letting me
one,
talk.
that team was playing like crap again.
Initially I said, okay, it's 4th and 4, you got to go. Comes back, it's 4th and 6. Okay, so you go and you make it. What happens? You may go down and score. You might, and now it's 17-0.
What happens if you go for it score
and you don't make it, and then you slip and they go down and score? Now all of a sudden you got 10-7, 10-3. Now it's a ball game. When you go into the locker room, the tone of the game would shift. I think the negative far outweighs the positive of going for it there. Like to me, okay. Again, that's a head coaching decision. That's a Jeremy Pruitt decision. So you're pissed at that, whereas just what was it? Just no. But you're complaining. You're complaining about it. But what was it?
I just
was it
don't
last
understand.
Week, or was it West Virginia? On the goal line, Pruitt got pissed because the offense walked off the field on 4th down and 1. I just don't think the criticism of Jeremy Pruitt is fair there based on that decision. That decision did not impact the game in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion.
Well, then you can say neither
did
the lack of the 2-minute offense of putting Chris in.
It didn't. But
I mean, that didn't end up having an impact on it either.
Well, you seem pretty pissed.
Well, that's all I'm doing.
You still see.
I just don't understand it. I mean, it just didn't
was
make any
4th and
sense to me.
6.
What was the yardage on that?
When I thought it was 4th and 4, I said let's go for it, because your play calling options, in my opinion, for 4th and 4 are way more open. 4th and 6, you got to pass. To me, that puts them at an advantage. They know you're going to pass. You're not going to run on 4th and 6. I don't think.
Yeah, but when you got Marquez Callaway and Jawan Jennings and Dominic Wood Anderson, I mean, you should be able to just snap the ball and throw it to one of them for 6 yards.
Let's go ahead and transition here. Something I wanted to talk about. Going into this game, Tennessee was the least penalized team in the SEC and also had 0 turnovers. But I think a big factor in the first half of this game are the 2 fumbles lost. Not only that, I think the first half was 3 penalties for maybe 25 yards. Closed out the game with 5 penalties for 40 yards. So definitely not a good game discipline-wise. And I think that kind of plays into it, man. That's something you got to look at. Yeah, it was 24-0. The spread was, 30? And you had a fumble on a punt, and you also had a fumble on the goal line, which we can talk about that if you want to. How anybody thought that was a fumble. Like, when it happened live, the way that my brain processed it was that's not a touchdown. He didn't extend the ball to the goal line because half of his body was on the ground. And then they start showing the replays, and I said, yeah, okay, he's clearly down. And then, no, the ruling on the field stood, which made no sense to me. That was not a fumble by Jeremy Banks.
It's either he's down or it's
issues.
a touchdown.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Y'all
I thought
don't
it
think
was
that
so
he was
clear cut.
laying on top of the UTEP defender?
Well, that's why I said if
But
he
if
was, then it's a
you're
touchdown.
down. He's down. Yeah, well, but if the UTEP defender is on the ground and you're laying on the defender, but the replay from the end zone, his knees, half of his body was on the ground. Not even he was down. That's my opinion. He was down, and I'm sticking to it.
I thought he was laying on top of the defender.
So then was it a touchdown?
Should have been a touchdown then. Because
Yeah,
the ball was across the goal line before it got knocked out.
But the only problem is I couldn't see a camera angle that could say for sure whether or not the ball crossed the goal line. They had that one angle that was right down the goal line, but there was the defender. His hind end was in the way exactly
But I thought
when he reached the ball.
The reverse end zone angle proved he was down. Like, I don't think he was laying on anybody. I thought he was on the ground.
It was hard to see because both of them had white pants on, both teams.
Yeah.
So.
I guess at the end of the day, it's a learning experience. Don't extend the ball like that. It's dumb. He shouldn't have done it. But this changed gears. The point is discipline. Discipline. They've been a well-disciplined football team up to this point, but today, two fumbles and 5 penalties.
That was a big one.
They actually had 8 penalties.
Yeah, they had.
Oh my gosh,
had a
8
lot of penalties, and
it was 8. Yeah,
that's why I
8
said
for
it
65 yards.
That's why I said it was strange because it seemed like they did some decent things on offense, and then the penalties just killed them. I think I heard him say
anytime that you rack up 512 yards,
yeah,
you'd think you'd be able to score more than 24 points, but they continue to struggle in the red zone with penalties. I mean, we saw that. I mean, that first touchdown was called back.
Yeah, they just have to. They've got to clean that up. They just didn't look. I don't know.
They weren't sharp.
No, they were not sharp at all. I don't think.
And that's what I've read here. Pruitt's post-game press conference, he's already said that they didn't practice good this week. So
he said that all week long. All
Yeah.
week long, he said they haven't practiced. And give us a break, guys. When you're leaving your comments, we're not experts, and it's right now. It's 3:55 p.m. We're recording right after the game. Typically, I watch the game live. You're pretty emotional usually on Saturday, and then usually Sunday I go back and rewatch the game, and then feel a little bit better about it. But we're just coming right out of the gate swinging today. 345 yards rushing, 7 yards per carry. Of course, the 81-yard touchdown by Chandler impacted that some. Rocky summed it up best. This was a weird game. At halftime, I felt JP, I felt like you were pissed at halftime. And yeah, it was what, 10-0
10-0
at the half?
Against the worst team in FBS.
10-0, but when you look at the stats, and I know stats are overrated. But at the half, Garantano was 8 for 10 with 140 yards. The running backs were averaging right around 5 yards a carry, but yet the score is still 10-0.
Well,
it was just a
that's
weird
because of. It's because of turnovers and penalties, like we just talked about. That's what it was, and these 12 o'clock games. I know that it's not an excuse because this team is not very, very good, but it is hard on these 12 o'clock games. How many times have you seen teams struggle with those early kickoffs? And I'm sure that there's probably some looking ahead for Florida game, but still, that's the thing with this team. Tennessee is nowhere the caliber of a football team to be able to overcome 2 turnovers, one of them right at the goal line. They can't overcome plays that are potential touchdowns that are called back because of penalties. It just can't happen.
Yeah, against UTEP, you end up winning 24-0 versus 31, 38, 42, whatever. Against a team like Florida, that costs you the game.
Well, yeah.
Those type of mistakes cost you the game.
There's only one other team that's on our schedule this year that we can probably play like we did today and win, and that's against Charlotte. Rest of the games, there's no there's no way that Tennessee could beat Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Missouri, any of those teams with the way that they played today.
Can we talk about the defense? Because, and I know it's ETSU and it's UTEP, but this defense has given up 3 points in 2 weeks. And you see some criticism, and there are obviously some correctable mistakes that you see. At times, this defensive line has made plays, especially today. They made some plays today. The defensive line made some plays today. But it is ETSU and UTEP. But that said, what more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? 1.5 points a game over the last 2 weeks? How do you get better than that? You don't. You don't get better than that. Do you guys – I feel personally, and I think Armaine said it maybe in the preseason show. I can't remember. Talking about these defensive backs, I think we got a special group of kids back there. Maybe not this year. They're young. They make their mistakes. But maybe 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to be talking about a special group of kids in this defensive backfield.
I was happy with the performance. My only knock would be when the ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. Other than that, I thought the defensive line had pressure. A lot of times in the past, we've had trouble with dual threat quarterbacks. Really, I mean,
he was irrelevant.
He was. I mean, it's even been against bad teams that dual threats have given Tennessee trouble. He was irrelevant. I was really happy with how the defense. I think I heard him say UTEP ended up with like 131, 134 yards today. Even against a bad team,
what
that's
did
a good
ETSU?
Day. ETSU ended up closer to 200, but it was still like 190.
But still, it was under. Yeah, it was under 200.
It was under 200. I think 195.
How can you complain about that?
Exactly.
And again, I get it. It's ETSU and UTEP. But how many times in the past have we seen a Tennessee defense struggle against these teams?
I was happy with the performance because the one thing we touched on last week, we said they did what they were supposed to do, but the line was getting no pressure. They were in the backfield all day today. I really thought they were, and it wasn't just from blitzes. I even heard Kongbo's name mentioned today. So, that's a pretty good.
Yeah, well, he also got schooled a couple of times too.
Yeah, but they were in the backfield a lot today, and like you said, the quarterback, he was irrelevant today. He had no big plays on it.
How about Paul Bain?
Yeah,
Where's that guy coming
after
from? Man, what a good game for him. Johnson continues to make plays in that defensive line. Kyle Phillips looks good on the defensive line. Listen, I'm not all of a sudden. I don't think this is feels like 98 defense, but I see some things I like on this defense. I do. I really, really do. And I'm not saying that this team's going to go 8-4, but I think Tennessee has a good football coach. I do. I believe it with all my heart. I love watching him coach his heart out on the sideline week in and week out. And I think if he can get the Jimmies and Joes, boys, I think we have a football coach.
Well, I'm still in wait and see mode. I don't disagree.
I know you are, and
I don't disagree with you. But
I was sitting here today. and I said, I'm buying in. And what's so funny is looking at what the score was today. It's 24-0 against UTEP, but I see so many things that I like about Coach Pruitt that I'm having a hard time not just buying in 100% at this point. And I know if he beats Florida, if they go and they beat Florida this week, I think I'm all in. I'm
in if he wins, but that 2-minute not run 2-minute offense right there didn't give me any positive marks with him, because that was a perfect opportunity to run it, and that's an easy opportunity to go down, or not an easy opportunity. That's enough time to go down and score points, and he didn't take advantage of it. And this team needs all the points they can get. So, listen, I'm not against him by any means. I like him. I like what he's doing, but this week is going to. He beats Florida, I'm in. Until he beats somebody of significance, I'm in wait and see mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the defense goes, I think the last 2 weeks, they've they've come out and done what you would expect them to do against the level of opponent that they were playing. So I mean, I'm like Boogie. I'm not going to sit here and declare this defense world beaters because I think we all know that that's not the case. But I am encouraged that it seems like that we're starting to tackle better. Uh, we're not having wide receivers just running wide open like we've seen over the last few years, even against the inferior competition. And we did get some pass rush today, which was certainly needed. But we'll see. I mean, I'm like you all. I mean, it just depends on what Saturday brings because the competition certainly. I mean, even though Florida's trash too, but certainly they're a lot better than what we played the last couple of weeks.
Well, one big thing we've talked about, and we've said it since preseason. We just want to see progress, and
Yeah,
I really felt like I saw progress out of the defense again today. I mean, I
I
believe
agree.
UTEP's probably got a better offense than ETSU, and you held them to less points. You throttled a dual threat quarterback, which has been a problem in the past, and you see the defensive line getting pressure, something they really haven't done the first 2 games. So I know it's not good teams that they've played the last 2 weeks, but there's still you can see a little bit of progress here and there, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you hold a team to 134 total yards, I mean that's hard to do.
It
I mean,
is even a bad team. It is.
yeah, I mean it certainly is, especially later in the games when you're trying to play some younger guys and get them some experience and so forth like that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm I'm still on the fence with it because it's all going to come down to whether or not Pruitt can recruit, and that's why next Saturday is going to be so big for Tennessee because they've got to get some momentum going and beat a quality opponent, a rival, because we just can't just live off beating the UTEPs and the ETSUs of the world and expect to be able to get these top recruits.
We can't, and you got to expect next week, especially with it going to be a night game. They're probably going to have a strong list of recruits in town next week.
They are,
You can
yeah,
make a big impression next week. I know just in the years past, just some of those games, how loud it was, the atmosphere and everything really set the tone for some recruiting classes, some really good recruiting classes. And I think they've got a chance to do it this week. And part of my thing with not buying in yet is just because I bought into the last 3 guys only to be disappointed. I want to buy in, but I have to see. I'm like you. I'm not gonna buy in just beating UTEP and ETSU. And guys, like I'm all on board. I'm full supporting Pruitt. Don't get me wrong. By any means, I'm not saying anything bad. I want to see him beat a Florida or somebody meaningful on the schedule. Does that? I'm
yeah,
I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I agree too. I just like the way that he coaches.
I do too.
I do too. Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was in the first half. Callaway. Uh, I guess it was maybe it wasn't the first half. It was. I think it was after he muffed the punt. The very next punt, he backed off and he let it bounce and it rolled 20 yards. And I looked over at my stepdad and I said, last time he did that, he got an earful from Pruitt, and it hadn't come out of my mouth, and they changed the camera angle, and Pruitt was in his grill. He doesn't care if the score is 3-0 or if it's 60-0. He coaches nonstop, and I don't. I could probably say Lane Kiffin, coach was a good coach. You can disagree with me. Don't at me, bro. But it's been a long time since you had a coach like that. So I like what I'm seeing on the sideline from him. Something that baffles me, just changing gears here, going back to the offense. Why can this football team not run inside, but they seem to have a lot of success running off tackle or outside? Really, a whole lot of success. That's the Chandler run for a touchdown. Seems to me if they go inside, it's a lot of no gain or even losses. But when they run outside, they seem to have success.
Well, I mean, I'll give you my opinion. I think
No
the interior
worries.
of the offensive line's weak. I mean, we got the Johnson kid that's playing guard, and honestly, when you look at him in the huddle or on the sidelines, he looks like a tight end maybe. That's the skinniest looking SEC guard that I think I've ever seen in my life. And then Kennedy's injury. I know that there's a lot of people that gave him grief over that first play of that game,
Including
against West.
all three of us.
Yeah,
All
but
three of us.
in reality, because I went back and watched quite a bit of that game, he got better as the
A lot better.
game
lot
went
better.
on, and that injury to him, I mean, I think that's a huge blow to Tennessee. I think that Ryan Johnson is trying. Of course, I mean, I think all of them are trying, other except maybe Richmond. I'm not convinced that he's trying, but
Is that guy the worst starting offensive lineman in the SEC?
he's definitely got to be the worst former 5-star starting offensive lineman in the SEC for sure. But getting back to the interior, I mean, we've got Carvin, who's a true freshman, and you got Ryan Johnson, who was playing guard before Kennedy got hurt, and then you got Jameer Johnson, who weighs 270 pounds, it looks like. So, I mean, I think that's why that interior of the offensive line's struggling, and it seems to be the only place that they have any success running the football is behind Trey Smith. I mean, that seems to be like the only place.
Off tackle to the left is where they have the most success.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not going to work. I mean, we all know that we've got to find a way to mix it up more than that, because these SEC defenses will absolutely eat us alive.
Yeah, that's what concerns me more than anything is the fact that Tennessee is having the most success running the football to the outside, because you can't, like you just said, you can't do that against the SEC defense. You run outside, the speed is just so different versus a UTEP or ETSU. Even West Virginia, they got blown out against West Virginia. And the success they saw was running to the outside. But you start playing these Alabamas, Georgias, any SEC defense, it's so much harder to run to the outside. It just is. The linebackers close the distance so much faster. And even Ty Chandler's touchdown, what was it, 81 yards?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he would have gained against the SEC defense? It wouldn't have been a touchdown. He outran two guys that took pretty good angles to cut him off, but he just outran them because he's a better athlete.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say, but I mean, probably 20 yards at most, maybe. I mean,
and I'm not taking away. It was a well executed play. The offensive line executed. Everybody executed well. The wide receivers blocked well, and then he outran some people. But I'm just saying that's not going to work against a superior defense.
No, I mean, it's not. And I don't know. I mean, I've just not been really impressed with with the play calling. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, we need to change coaches and all that crap, but
this is the conversation that I really wanted to have today.
But there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of flow. And I think part of it might be, and I won't be surprised that starting next week that I'm not sure that we'll see all four running backs. I think that you're going to see probably a lot more dose of Chandler. And probably Jordan. I think as long as Banks continues to drop the football, that against quality teams, that he's going to be riding the pine.
I think London's kind of shown he can get in there and Bull for some yards too. I'll be interested to see how that one works out. It just seems to me.
I think they've got four good running backs. I really do. I think, like JP just said, I think Chandler's the best. But I think they've got four pretty good running backs.
Well, you've got
I mean, Jeremy Banks is a freaking freshman.
Yeah, I mean, you got four good running backs. You got numerous good wide receivers. You have got Guarantone's looking. He seems to be getting better each week. I think you've got a solid quarterback. I'll be interested to see how he does getting into SEC play. That line, man. I mean, it's
that's
on
where it
the
starts.
line.
That's where it starts and finishes.
And
that's where it's at.
And we mentioned Trey Smith. He had some rough moments, I thought, today too. And but that inside is kind of, you made a key point. You've got an undersized guard, you've got Johnson, and then you got a true freshman right there. That's not a good recipe, honestly. It's just not a good recipe for a successful line. And I'll be curious to see if they mix it up some. I wonder, because I think Chance Hall's close to going full strength. Can he provide anything in there, I wonder? I wonder if we're better off with Trey Smith in there at guard, possibly.
I don't even know if Chance Hall played today. I was trying to see, but I didn't hardly see him. Honestly, I didn't see him rotating much on the offensive line today.
I didn't see
I
him.
I thought most of the starting five played about all game really. So I don't know. I know that they've been talking about that they definitely think that Chance Hall can help them, but they don't think that he could play a full game, that he's not to that level. So I don't know if maybe it's just kind of like a maintenance, and they didn't feel like that they needed to risk putting him out there today, and maybe going to save him for the SEC games. But I'm not sure that he even played.
I never saw him out there, but and maybe he was, and I just didn't see it. But it seemed to me like it was about the same five. I know at the end, on the last drive, they had a lot of their backups.
Yeah, I saw Garvey in there and somebody else. I can't.
Colbert.
Oh yeah, the end was
Niehaus.
The end was they weren't even trying to score at the
No.
end. I mean that was irrelevant. Something I want to bring up. I want to go back to play calling. I do. I want to talk about this across the board. I thought they showed some interesting wrinkles this week. You got a couple of design runs from Garantano. Not a lot, maybe two, maybe three. They threw some wildcat with Tim Jordan, which was successful, man. Throw Tim Jordan back there and put Chandler with him. And it was limited, just a couple of plays, but they did have some success with it. And also something else was empty backfield, and they had Chandler in the slot. But I want to talk about play calling because a lot of times the biggest arguments we have on this podcast is somebody got a helicopter taken off of their house.
My wife decided to open the garage door just now. So, yeah,
okay,
nice.
cool. Well, rock and roll, man. Just keep rock and rolling in the free world. What I want to talk about, we argue about play calling all the time on this podcast, and I think that you're handcuffed. What would you do? What would you do different? What would you do different? Like, my biggest complaints are the bubble screens, and they had some success with it. One play you got Jennings out there blocking. I can't remember who caught the pass.
It was Johnson.
Yeah, there you go. And he made a nice move. And Jennings is out there basically blocking two people, and then Jennings scored on the bubble screen. I don't like that play call. I'll never like that play call, even though it worked in those two scenarios. But otherwise, what would you do different? What would you do different?
Jennings wasn't even covered on that. I don't know if you noticed that or not. There was one cornerback covering two guys out there. That was an easy play right there. It's going to depend on the opponent, I think, as to whether you can run that play or not. I mean, I wonder.
Overall, I think Helton has been fine. I think Helton has done. He stretches the field. He throws it deep. He takes his shots. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I think he's adapted well to realizing, hey, we can't run inside. He switches up, moves to the outside. I think maybe it's just my opinion. I think it's this is the number one argument on this damn podcast. the offensive coordinator gets attacked. What would you do? What would you do different? I mean, really, it's different when you're in the booth and you got to call plays and you got offensive linemen getting railroaded. What do you do different? I would love to know. I would love to know.
I'm waiting.
Probably have somebody outside like Preston Williams that just caught a pass against Florida. No, I'm just kidding. Um, yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, we've all talked about this offensive line and the difficulties that it is to get any kind of rhythm going. Especially when you're down in distance, is 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. Because I mean, at that point in time, it's more than likely that you're going to pass, and the defense knows that. Hopefully that we can continue to get Dominic Wood-Anderson involved in it some more.
I'm glad they utilized it. They utilized him a little bit more in the first half, and then he was irrelevant in the second half.
Yeah, and then maybe now that Chandler's back, getting him more involved in the passing game, because I do think Chandler could be a weapon for us out of the backfield with that. And something else that I don't think that we've seen a whole lot of yet is any kind of quick slants, those type of plays.
I don't think we've seen much of that. We really hadn't seen a whole lot of running back screens either. I'll be curious to see if they run more of that. But they've got weapons. It's just I really kind of wonder too if they're not handcuffed by the offensive line, because the line's just so inconsistent. They'll have a good play, but you've heard coaches say it before. You may have, not including the quarterback, you may have 9 guys doing everything right, and then there's one assignment missed. And I think a lot of times that may be the case. So until the line really gets going, and the penalties, they killed them too. Penalties always kill momentum, and that's why I say it's just strange today, because they seem to move the ball pretty well, and then you'd have a penalty or something. So I don't know. I mean, until the line gets in gear, I don't know what you can change. And I expect they'll open it up a little bit more against Florida. They've run a lot of toss sweeps, and you're not going to be able to run that every other play against Florida.
Yeah.
They know it's working against these teams, and they're using it, and I don't blame them a bit on that, but they're going to have to get something going inside.
Yeah. But that's what concerns me, though, is they've had that success outside. They have had zero success inside. So what do you do? How do you mix it up? How do you, like, if you can't run inside runs against ETSU and UTEP, what are you supposed to do as a play caller? Well, what do you do?
I'm gonna call it right now. The first play next Saturday is going to be a play action pass.
Bomb or a short pass?
Well, bomb. It's a bomb, baby.
Bomb.
It's a bomb.
I mean, I think that's what Helton will go for if we get the right look. But of course, now, I mean, surely, that there's a check down route, but that's something other than, and I'm sure I'm wrong on this, but just watching the first three games, I don't think we've done very much play action at all. The one time that I do recall was the 4th down play against West Virginia that went for the touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think they've. I mean, it's one of the things. I just don't think they've. I think there's more that they'll do. I'm not sure they've shown a lot. I think they're just trying to basically get a base down right now. You can't go to a more advanced play without having the base plays down pat first, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and it's tough because you got drilled by West Virginia, and then you played 2 cupcakes. So it's been kind of a weird season to be, going into week 4, because I don't think they've shown a lot. I think they put those little wrinkles in to give something for Florida to look at this week. But
sure,
I think it's been a really dumbed down offense since West Virginia. But again, even going back to West Virginia, like I said, you got blown out. So how much did you really show? And I know you're trying to score, you're trying to win, you're doing everything you can, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I know JP's complained some. Both of you kind of complained some about Helton. I like the guy so far. He takes shots when I like it. I like that he takes shots in places that I would take shots. But
I think one thing that would help right now, and I think they're doing a lot of rotating. Of course, they're rotating the quarterbacks. They're not really rotating them, but Chris is getting in 6th possession or something. That's probably. I don't see any reason next week to play him unless there's an injury or a helmet comes off or something like that.
If he comes in next week, I'm going to have a lot of questions about
there's
it.
no reason to. I can understand doing it against UTEP. I can understand against ETSU, even though I thought the timing was odd both weeks. Next week, you need to let Garantano go until the end. You need to let him go till the end. And I know I had said last week, hey, if he's struggling, maybe put Chris in, but I kind of changed my mind a little bit today because it didn't. I thought it kind of threw things off a little bit, and Chris didn't look good today either. Totally changed my mind on it, and you know what? I can change my mind from one week to the next. So
they're roasting you in the comments
fine,
right now.
But I think you got to keep that in, and I don't think the offensive line is a finished product. I really think there'll be more rotation because that inside, I think you got to tinker a little bit in practice. Hopefully some guys will step up and practice this week.
They get Farmer on them.
Well, he was there this past week. It didn't seem to help.
I was going to say, do we want to talk about that?
I think that the game plan today was certainly to try to develop that running game. I mean, I think that they looked at that UTEP team and said, this is our opportunity to work on this running game, and I'm sure that's probably why that the pass game didn't look as explosive and stuff. But
well, they only threw the ball 6 times in the second half.
Yeah.
Well, minus Chris, whatever he did.
Well, he was only 1 of 3 for the whole game, so
yeah, they did not throw the ball at all in the second half.
Yeah, so I mean that's what they were doing. I mean they were working on that running game, which I'm glad that they did. I mean because you're going to have to be able to run the football in the SEC to even be competitive. I mean, if you don't run the football on a consistent basis, there's going to be we're going to get drilled by several teams this year if this football team can't find a way to at least be decent running football.
Hey, Rock, your wife's back. Let's again, just a reminder, we're doing 2 podcasts this week, so we are not going to talk about Florida. We're not going to make our predictions. We're going to do that on Wednesday, hopefully. Probably be up late Wednesday after work, so you can listen to that before the Florida game. But it's officially Florida week. The clock hit 0. It is Florida week. Let's readdress the season, as we said we're going to do each and every week. For the most part, we seem to be 6-6, 7-5. What do you guys think after this UTEP game? I agree with Rocky. It was a weird week. And I know, JP, you were pretty angry at halftime. And I cut you off because I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to wait for the podcast. It is what it is. Tennessee was a 30-point favorite. And I think you take away the turnovers and the mental mistakes, and they easily cover the spread. My prediction's not changing. I'm still going 6-6. Oh man, this game tells all. If they can find a way to beat Florida this week, we know how tough that gauntlet is after Florida. You got at Georgia, at Auburn, Alabama. It's going to be tough. But if this team finds a way to beat Florida, I think 6-6 is very reachable, if not 7-5. I'm sticking with it. 6-6 with a possibility of 7-5. We will know more on Saturday when Florida comes to town.
I've got to see Saturday right now. Florida's very beatable. I'll stick to it. They are very beatable this week. What I saw today from the offense, I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Of course, we'll get into that more on Wednesday. If you get this one, I think you got a real shot at the bowl. If you don't get this one, we will be having this conversation next year about, I hope we get bowl eligible.
I think the entire season, I think it's ride or die. I think it's this is the game. This game is going to turn the season, positive or negative. We're ride or die.
I've said that since the West Virginia game, that you had basically 3 weeks to get ready for Florida, and it's here. This is the biggest game of the season coming up. And we don't need to say it's another game. But I think even more so. It's not just another game. This is humongous because it allows Pruitt.
I agree.
You're going to have a lot of recruits in town. I think the fan base wants to buy in. There's people that probably have. There's probably people on the fence like I am. Not so much on the fence that we'll want to change, just that, we've kind of had our bubble busted a couple times before. I want to see somebody prove it. This is his chance to really get everybody behind him, to get a lot of positive momentum going. I don't care if it's 2-0 next week. A win is a win in that game. If you get a win, it's going to set a real good tone, because you're going to have that next 3 weeks after that is ridiculous. If you win one of those games, you're doing pretty good. You've got to get this game this week. You have to.
I agree.
Right.
I agree with it completely.
That's all you got. Just an agreement.
I mean, it's true. I mean, what our main saying is true. I mean,
he's been preaching it since.
You've got to find a way to beat this Florida football team, because they're not a good football team, and Tennessee's not a good football team. But you've got to find a way to beat them. You just got to.
Maybe
this program to try to continue to take steps forward, you've got to win a football game like this.
I don't know if it's because it's the next game, and the next game is always the biggest game. Armane's been preaching it since the preseason show. And I think in the back of our minds we all knew it, but I think it's more about the way the season's played out thus far. The way the West Virginia game played out, a blowout. And then the way these last 2 games have played out with the slow starts. They've started slow every week. I think it's just kind of built to this moment, that this is the turning point in the season. Are they going to go 6-6 and get bowl eligible? Or is it going to be another winless SEC season? What's going to happen? I think it all depends on Saturday. And like I said, is it because it's the next one? Maybe. But this is the big one.
I mean, it's your big.
We're going to chat about it on Wednesday.
One of your 2 biggest rivals. I think they've both been pretty even teams for the last few years, and of course we've only came out on the better side of it once. Last year, both of them were bad football teams, and Florida, they pulled it out. You got to give them credit; they pulled it out. There's probably not going to be a better time to get them than now. It's really not. I'm watching them play right now, and they don't look very good.
No, he just threw a pick.
So, I just think, based on, if Florida was, top 10 team or something, it's acceptable. Based on that neither one of them's a good team, you need to be the best of the worst, so to speak. You need to be better than them. Because you can't have 2 consecutive seasons of no SEC wins. And it's in Knoxville. It's a night game. You're going to have recruits in town. You need this momentum. You really do. And I hope they treat it as it's a big game and not, I know you're going to get to coach speak or whatever. We treat it like any other week. And I like what Pruitt said after the game. We're focused on us because we got enough to work on right now. And I really think that's what they'll be focused on this week too. But this is a big one. It really is. This is a big, because I think this game is more winnable than Missouri. Kentucky's gonna be tough, even though it one is in Knoxville. Vanderbilt's gonna be tough. There's not a for sure win left on the schedule other than Charlotte, and I think this is the second most winnable game on the schedule, possibly.
Let's do it, Pruitt.
I was waiting on JP to chime in, and that's the best he's got.
Hey, our main is spot on. There's no need for me to say the same thing. I'm all in on our main.
We're just here to agree and edit the podcast. We're not giving predictions this week. We're waiting. We'll be back Wednesday. Going to give full Florida coverage, man. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to shut this off. I'm going to go edit the podcast, and then I'm DVRing the Florida game right now. I'm going to go back and watch it. We'll have full breakdown of Tennessee versus Florida on Wednesday. We'll give our predictions. Again, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast needs, do us a favor. Jump over to YouTube, S&B Network. Subscribe. Oh, my God. If you guys subscribe, if we can hit 1,000 subscribers, we will definitely be more likely to post an episode on Saturday and Wednesday. I think that could possibly be the future of this podcast. Maybe we'll do 2 episodes a week. Maybe we'll start covering Tennessee basketball. I don't know. Not me. I'll just make these 2 guys do it, and I'll edit it. Maybe that's something we can address in the future. I don't know. But all I'm telling you is 1,000 subscribers is the key, because YouTube sucks, and they shut us down unless we hit that. So do us a favor, S&B Network. Subscribe if you're listening to this. If you've made it 55 minutes into this podcast, just subscribe. It will help so much. Anything else you guys want to bring up or chat about before we wrap up this special edition Saturday episode of Talkin Balls?
It's my week. I'm ready for it. Blood will be boiling. I've got a little time today to digest, but come tomorrow and Monday, blood will be boiling. I'll probably be running up, chopping doors, chopping walls. I'll flip over couches.
Talkin VAWLS, baby.
Yeah, buddy. Yep.
I wish, oh, man. I'm like you, man. The attitude the last 2 weeks has been so boring. It hasn't felt like football season. It's like, well, yeah, we got a game, but I don't really care. I got other stuff going on. I'm not really paying attention. But this week changes. This week it's on, man. I'm freaking fired up. I'm ready. I wish if we were making our predictions now. Spoiler alert: somebody's blood is orange, and I don't really know why after watching the game today.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
We talk about, and you make an interesting point. Not to keep dragging on here, but you make an interesting point. My attitude's the same way. I'm watching because I'm a Tennessee guy. I'm watching because of that. But I wasn't. The only time I got any kind of worked up was over the Banks, knees down or ball in the end zone. That's the only time I got worked up at all today. I mean, there were some times I kind of shook my head, or there was, hand would go up in there when they'd score a touchdown. But I just wonder if players carry the same attitude. I don't know, because never played college football, but I just wonder if that attitude is present with them when you're playing at ETSU, you're playing at UTEP, who's not one in ages.
You have to think playing UTEP on 12 o'clock on Saturday that you're not coming amped up like you would be for a Florida or a Georgia or an SEC opponent. Come on. Rewind back to when you were 18, 19 years old. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? I would not care at all. And like you said, I never played college football. I can't speak to their level of dedication, the time and the effort they put into the program and schoolwork on top of that. But at the same time, I was also once an 18, 19-year-old kid. And
12 o'clock game, so the team's not won in a couple years. I could see maybe not being fired up, but 7 o'clock, 7:30 next week, full house, Florida.
You better be fired up.
Be piss and vinegar fired up next week.
All right, JP, any final comments before we wrap up this special Saturday episode of Talkin Balls?
No, I don't have anything. I just hope that team gets better this week.
Well, again, no predictions this week. That is going to wrap it up for Talkin Vols. I closed my notes. I think episode 33. Do us a favor, hit the comments. We'll hit predictions on Wednesday, but let us know what you thought of Tennessee and UTEP today. But for our main and Vols JP, that's it. We're out of here. We'll be back on Wednesday. I got one last thing to say, and that is go Big Orange.
Jack Kerouac, he drank himself to death in New England, and I'd like to take his hand and say, Jack, man, it's okay. Now he's gone, and we're left to move on without him. Songs howl like being poets at an arcade, soaking moonlit falls on broken past this inundated orb that we call home. And it's night and I'm alone and I'm alive.